What's going on, everyone? Welcome back to YGO-PD, your Yu-Gi-Oh! Professional Development, and the next installment of Yu-Gi-Oh! 365. This is a little bit of an interesting spot. This is 1 week since the ban list has become officially legal, and we have a couple of events we are doing back-to-back today, recording as of Saturday and Sunday. Saturday is a YCS VIP qualifier at our local game store down in Kettering, Ohio. No Limit Gaming, really insane store. Had the chance to be in that area for a few years back then. Still know a few really good people down there. Probably one of the best stores in the state, if not the Midwest region, as well as some of the best players that I know. So it's going to be a really competitive day. And then on top of that, the next day, unfortunately on a Sunday, we have the Columbus, Ohio Regionals. We are running both of those events back to back with Rescue Ace. I've been in a weird spot and not super confident with it. Last week we did go to a OTS championship at No Limit Gaming, but that was just kind of really weird just because that was 2 days before the ban list dropped and was legal. So cash was still there and the format was unsolved and people were still working things out. And even with this weekend, right, with YCS Dortmund and things like that, the format is really not going to be officially quote unquote solved or have a definitive idea of the direction we go until after this weekend. So it's kind of a crapshoot. So I stuck with Rescue Ace A because I'm most comfortable with it, and B, it has a wide variety of coverage and a good matchup into a lot of decks. We're going to see what happens today. We're going to run it back. We have a few different changes, but again, today is just a testing ground for tomorrow. So we'll see how this goes. And then hopefully at the end of the day tomorrow, we'll at least have an invite, probably a top, maybe even a YCS VIP championship win or VIP qualifier win. So we'll see what happens, and I'll see you guys tomorrow. All right, and we're back. I will take some time and talk a little bit about matchups from the event. Like I said, we went 2 different events back to back over this past weekend. We went to our VIP qualifier on Saturday, which we got second at, which was insane, but just not good enough. I felt okay. It still felt really good as a performance and felt confident moving into the regional the following day. And then we did the regional, which we also got our invite for. It was 439 players and top 48 for that event, a total of 9 rounds of Swiss. And then the VIP qualifier had 5 rounds of Swiss and actually didn't end up going to top cut, which I thought was interesting. I thought that was happening, but maybe I misunderstood. But either way, going back and forth on the screen, you'll see a couple breakdowns in terms of what I played, how those went, all that kind of thing. I don't remember die rolls over the past couple days. I really don't, but I don't think it had a significant impact overall. But that's just the only caveat. But of course, you'll also see maybe some pack openings and just different things like that on screen from prizing and just little things like that. But to talk about the VIP qualifier, again, showing the matchups and talking about it, I played 2 Unchained, 1 Dragon Link, 1 Tier, and 1 Mirror Match. My total record was X1. Unfortunately, had a weird number of undefeateds by the end of like round 3. There was a lot of people that drew and threw things off. So going into round 4, I was 3-0, and I got pared down to a 2-0-1, which in reality, I mean, they already have the set number of rounds. They can't just call it an undefeated, which was just really awkward and just felt weird. But it was to my good friend Cole, who was also on Rescue Ace. He's one of the other few people outside of my boy Sunny P that have talked about the deck and tested the deck for quite some time. And shout out to him because he didn't end up winning that event, but he did go 7-1-1 at the regional on Sunday and got top 8. He specifically got 8th place, so it's really insane. He posted his Rescue Ace build in the Rescue Ace Duelist group about a day or 2 ago. If you're interested, check that out. Our builds are similar in terms of engine, but the non-engine choices were a little bit different. And I think for his logic, that idea of just putting a lot of extra bodies on board might have carried him over. But his build was designed, I think, more for the mirror match and some of the awkward things, which he definitely got a lot more. And I was designed, I think, a little bit more for just expecting meta. But either way, it worked out for him, which was really, really insane. And then for the regional, again, like I said, talking about matchups on screen, we were 5-0 and then kind of hit a downward spiral. I'll talk just a little bit about that matchup specifically that kind of sent me pretty hard was round 5. I played against Labyrinth, specifically a really good player. His name's Sean Pittman. He's kind of been on a tear over the past couple years. If you know him personally, really insane player. Was on Labyrinth. and our game one was about 50 minutes. And that was it. We had about 45 minutes of the full round plus the 5-minute time extension and never moved past game one, which was just nuts. I ended up getting it because I did some chip damage very early on with Droplet, and then we never moved past that. We were checking and balancing each other's big bodies for just what seemed like forever to try to find an opening in that game state, and just couldn't really get there on either of our sides. And I think it seemed like he wasn't maining the Labyrinth Field spell, but if he was, I think he would have cleaned it up a lot quicker. But nevertheless, the point about that is I feel like that round of that match alone took more of my mental stamina than Saturday and Sunday's event combined. It just drained me. And then after that, I needed water. I needed food. It just didn't happen. I played Sprite. I played terribly. I misplayed. That kind of sent me into like a spiral, I guess. Wasn't really doing that great, and then just kind of ran into some unfortunate things. But overall, the matchups, right, round one Generator, that was an easy thing. Really cool to see someone playing that deck. I think it's neat. I don't think it's neat when they're playing Skill Drain and Anti-Spell as a way to cheese out wins, but we still got that. Rounds 2 and 3 were both Chimeras. Those were matchups I was worried about the most. Again, I think Chimera is the hardest for me personally. One was a branded Chimera and a runic Chimera, but it felt really good to call plays correctly and do things like that. And again, the Turbulence set 4, deck thinning so much, and then Prosperity for 6 to hit cards like Judgment or D-Barrier in the side is really good. Round 4, we played a Dinomorphia. Did not expect to see an undefeated Dinomorphia at table 3, about at the midway point. That was kind of wild. Again, more Floodgate nonsense. I'm glad I pushed through that. And then after that, we played a Labyrinth, which was, again, that round 5 I told you about, Sean. And then round 6, I kind of talked about Sprite. That was just 100% poor play on my end. Round 7 was Punk Kashtira. Cool to see. Love that deck. But did not like seeing double Emergency and no names game 1. And then game 2, seeing double D-Barrier and no names there. So just unfortunate brick. Really, really bad there. Labyrinth, again, another Labyrinth. We got that no problem. And then round 9 in the final round, we played Rika. Obviously, my tiebreakers were insane because the person who beat me got shot up to 10th as an X2, which was kind of wild. And then me as an X3 got shot down to 47th, which was just kind of disgusting. We sneaked in, got the invite at least out of the way for the season. Now we can just focus on the tops and the deck building and the perfecting and all that, which is great. But yeah, overall, I think I made some slight changes from Saturday into Sunday. This is the most current build that I'll talk about that I think both improved the deck and improved my performance that otherwise would not have been there. I was expecting to see mostly Unchained and Pearly and didn't see any of those all day. I don't know how to understate this, but you ask anyone who was at the Columbus Regional, you would want to vomit with how much Labyrinth there was. It was just like, it felt like 80% Labyrinth and then just 20% of everything else. It was disgusting. I felt great though and on top of that, just like almost half my matches were Floodgate based centric. 2 Labyrinth, the Generator with Floodgates, the Dinomorphia with Floodgates. It was just, it was a grind, but it was good. We got it done. But yeah, matchups have been shown back and forth on screen a couple times, and I'm going to go ahead and hop into the main extra inside of how we chose to play the deck. All right, and we're back, and I'll talk a little bit about just the main deck. I won't spend too much time on the Rescue Ace names because they're standard, and I've shown this a lot on the channel, but 3 Airlifter, 3 Hydrant, and 3 Impulse. This is still, in my opinion, just the standard of how it should be. Impulse is necessary. There are plenty of hands where you just see Impulse and nothing else, even on your 6th card, so you need it to play. After that, 2 Preventer and 2 Turbulence. Not much to say there. And the 1 Engine. That's pretty standard for the Rescue Ace monsters. For the spells, 3 Emergency. Again, not much needs to be said. Dodging, Targeting, Negation, really solid. 1 Rescue, 1 Alert, 1 Extinguish, and 1 Contain. The standard 4. Again, we're not on Reinforce. We are not on HQ. I've never missed it. I still didn't, even at regionals and things like that. I never thought it would help me win. There were never positions where I desired it. There weren't times where I was like, man, I have too many normal summons. I wish I could get HQ. That never came up. Even in grindier games, like even that one I mentioned with Lab, a 50-minute game 1, I never needed it to recycle anything. If that match did not have a time attached to it, then yeah, sure, it would be needed. But yeah, it was fine. I was perfectly happy with these ratios. For the non-engine, the bridge, of course, is going to be Regulus. We are on the Ethereum package. This was kind of a call that I decided to go back on the past 2 days, and it was great. Again, my luck is kind of trash with this. I'm sick of people hard drawing the Harpies they randomly main, or the talents or thrusts. They always seem to get it, or going first, post side. I don't draw my judgments, so I want something else, and this is what it was. And Nib was never a problem. I think a lot of people cut that, especially these past two events, in fear of Unchained, because Unchained A plays through it and makes the Griffin lock, which can arguably be a more powerful tool against most decks than just Caesar plus Rage plus Escape. And on top of that, people don't want to play into Talents and Thrust, especially with having a body on board from Nib. People just don't want that. So being able to go full combo with Apo for 3 plus Reg plus the set 4, every time that resolved, it was just pretty much game over. And it was also a great line where even if they imperm Turbulence and you needed something else to do and you had enough bodies, still being able to do this plus Apo for 3 was really good. After that, we play Triple Potter Prosperity. I still think you need it. Extrav has been coming up. Obviously, there's a guy named, I think, Hector that's had some success with it. I think that's fine. I can't bring myself to do that. So, but if you want to try it, go for it. The last couple consistency pieces are 1-for-1 and Rhoda. Not much needs to be said there. And the rest are more non-engine in the line of defensive cards, even though Regulus, I guess, was kind of one of those as well. 3 Fenrir, this was actually great. I kept saying the past couple bigger events I've done, I've never seen Fenrir, it was not great, or I wanted to side it out. It was kind of an easy side-out target, at least a slot 1 out. But this pushed in a lot of simplified game states. It put a lot of pressure. It was like the priority of removal for almost every matchup I had. Like it just gravitated everything towards it, which I felt that's what it needed to do, and it did a great job at that. So Fenrir was definitely solid. Our only hand trap was 3 Ash. So this is fine. I think I still needed it, and the fact that I played 2 Lab, 2 Chimera, freaking Generator that you need to Ash the field spell. Like Ash was clutch most of the day. So I was really, really happy with how that turned out. And then 3 Droplet. This is probably the change. On the VIP qualifier on Saturday, I played 3 Imperm, and then on the regional, I chose to just change to Droplet. Just seemed like it had a wider variety of applications. You lose to, I guess, exactly Flu in this case, and not even that. It's just if they hard draw Shifter. So overall, it was great. This happened. There was a lot of things in damage step with Labyrinth, with big bodies. There was dodging removal with Droplets, chaining with things like Book of Eclipse and things like that. It was just a really great card. I was really happy with it. The bigger priority still is just getting rid of Caesar for me for Unchained, and whether it's Imperm or this is fine, but I just think this had more application overall. And then we were on 3 Book of Eclipse. Shout out to my boy Grant for convincing me to play this over Book of Moon for probably 3 months straight, and me finally deciding to do it and admit that it's better. So yeah, I love Book of Eclipse. It baited out an Ash a couple times. This was decent against my Rika matchup to kind of book most of his board. Unfortunately, still having Sheet plus Con plus Princess is like a heck of a lot to deal with, even after a card like that. But yeah, Book of Eclipse was great. It came up exactly when it needed to. I think the only awkward thing is this compared to Book of Moon is if you do need to Book of Eclipse to dodge something, getting a search or whatever, like booking Hydrant to get Turbulence, then you don't have access to your spells you set them, which is kind of awkward, but otherwise it was fine. It did exactly what it needed to do. It was a solid choice. And then 1 called by as the 40th card. I think if I missed anything in the main deck, I'd missed Instant Fusion more than I thought I would. I've been on that for quite a bit, using that as a way to bait things for Kashtira with Millennium Eyes, taking things with Thousand Eyes, going into Anima. I missed that a little bit. I think Cole made a good point, one of my friends, that even now with Unchained being the more popular deck, just even summoning Mud Dragon as to protect from targeting, and as a level 4 for me even to help make the Merrymaker Sargus line was a little bit important, even for Dweller too. So I think I would at least potentially put maybe those 3 targets back in down the line, but I'm not sure. But I did miss having more options to address the hand traps. I think Talents wasn't going to be helpful to me, just in the sense of like if they hand trap me and I can't combo, like it's not going to change much. So yeah, but that was it. That was the main deck, clean 40 cards. For the extra, starting with the big links and working our way down. 1 Access, 1 Appaloosa, made this all the time going first. This card was really solid, even if all I could do was just make this without the Sargus stuff and into like set 4. It carried a lot of weight. It baited out a lot of things. It did what it needed to. Great card. Heat Soul came up enough that it was really solid, especially in simplified game states. 1 Unicorn, also really, really insane. Did random things like shuffling back a set Chimera Fusion before going into access code so they can't banish it to Reborn to kind of block lethal. Just good non-destructive removal that came up quite a bit. IP Masquerena never made this once, not even as a Cybers for the Heat Soul. This could probably be cut for something else down the line, but probably not with Little Knight on the horizon. 1 Phoenix, again, great card. Just needed some type of spot removal for back row. Nightmare and the Nightmares were really solid throughout the day. I was really happy with them. Sunlight Wolf, pretty decent. Did help cycle Ash once or twice, I think, against some labs and decks like that. Puzzle Amino, obviously need it for the Sargus stuff. 1 Donner. I'm still a fan of this. There were a couple matches where I was forced to, again, just use Impulse as my way to play, and using this to kind of outstuff is important. I do like Donner. I think eventually this kid is going to be cut, like this will become the Little Knight down the line, but for now, in terms of utility, I think this is still just a really good slot if you have the space for it. The 1 Hita was okay. Missed Dark a little bit, given all my matchups were almost all that. I think that probably should have came back in. I think in the grand scheme of things for this event only, IP probably could have been Dark with the most utility there, but otherwise it was fine. Didn't really feel like it was game determinative that I didn't have it. For the ones, 1 Link Karibo, 1 Almirage, and 1 Anima. The Anima's still the MVP of the extra deck for me. I don't know. Like I said, every other people that are just like Anima's bad, it never comes up. You're just playing better players than me because at the VIP qualifier, I took both a Boral and Dragon after hitting it with Contain. I took an Unchained Abomination. I've taken Lovelies at the regional. There was just so many different things where this came up. Used it on the Chimera Fusion to bait out the coldal targeting. Like it done so much. And that's also kind of the reason I missed Instant Fusion, because just going second, this is just a powerhouse of a card. And everyone just keeps playing into it. So for me, again, never be cut. And then 1 Merrymaker and 1 Sargus for the Regulus stuff. But that was it for the extra deck, And then for the side deck, I think the side deck was about as standard as it could get. I felt it had good coverage. I'll talk a little bit about what maybe I might change and what kind of did change over Saturday into Sunday. 3 Gamma Seal, solid. Saw it every now and then when I needed to. Did decent. Just needed something to guarantee clear stuff. Curry Car is not as great with Cash Gone, so that was my choice of swap. And then 3 Bestial Jerusalem. This was just okay. There were never times I really wanted to put this in. I just kind of wanted other better cards either kept in the main or just instead in the side. It was just okay. I don't think it's super, super needed. My mindset probably would be different if I played more Unchained than things like Labyrinth and stuff. But overall was still just okay throughout the day. This was a Crow on Saturday, and I just wished I had the body instead. So that was kind of the swap there. And then for the going first cards, 3 D-Barrier and 3 Judgment. I was really 50-50 on the D-Barrier. There were a million people in the Rescue Ace group clamoring to say, take out Anti-Spell for D-Barrier and just play the D-Barrier. So I think ultimately for this event, that was correct to play the D-Barrier. I did miss Anti-Spell for certain things, but for the Chimera matchups, it came up a little bit. For Rika, it came up a little bit. Just for certain decks that it was a little bit better, I think. If we transition more into like a flu-centric format to counter Unchained, then I might prefer, obviously, Anti-Spell in that case, but it was fine. And then the last card was 3 Cosmic Cyclone. I'm happy I picked this, given I played Labyrinth twice, Chimera twice, and then like Dynamorphia Floodgate and Generator Floodgate of like 6 of my rounds. I think was happy to see this to get around things like Anti-Spell and stuff like that. But against everything else, I wish it was Lightning Storm. But I think given what my matchups were, this was the correct thing, and I felt good about that. So that's it for the main, the extra, and the side. A clean 40-card main deck for Rescue Ace. That was the deck, back-to-back success. Not great, but still decent. Second place at the VIP qualifier, as well as in the top 48, and at least got the invite check out of the way for the season. So now we can just focus on breathing, preparing for the YCS, and emptying our wallet for Age of Overlord. So with all that said, thank you all so much for watching. I will see you all in the next one. Later.